Good morning, everyone. Sorry I couldn't be here for the lecture this morning, but I have this little recording here, and what I'm going to spend the next few minutes going over is how to go about searching for systematic reviews. This is going to be a little bit different than what we did earlier on in this class, where I had you create a specific search looking for randomized controlled trials for a subject that you were looking at. Here we're going to look at some very specific tools that already have some of those filters built into it, so it should make it a lot easier when it comes to searching for systematic reviews. So the way we'll go about this first is I'm going to take you to the U of M OT subject guide page, and on that page we're going to go to the evidence-based practice tab and take a look at where some of these resources can be found. And then once we're on that page, we'll take a look at the particular tools that you see on the slide here: the Cochrane Library, the National Guideline Clearinghouse, OTLecture, Pedro, and some of the other databases. I'll hopefully take a quick look at PubMed and at CINAHL and show you how they have some already built-in filters for finding systematic reviews. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and flip this screen over and find that University of Manitoba Occupational Therapy Subject Guide. There it is. And actually I've already found myself on this page, but let me take a step back. I'm going to go back to the libraries page. This is where most of you will find yourselves to start finding the subject guide. And if you go to this blue button here in the middle where it says Subject Guides and click on that, and then scroll down to find the medical rehabilitation link, open up that drop down menu, and then find College of Rehabilitation Sciences. Great, so here's our subject guide, and in particular for helping us find systematic reviews or particular tools that help us find systematic reviews, I'd like to go to the evidence-based practice page. So if I click on that, it should open up the page, and we've got a couple of columns here. This one's a little bit more of the definition and concepts of evidence-based practice. Here's some tools on about how to actually go about that whole process. We've looked at some of that, but it's in the center here where we have the actual links to the particular databases and other tools that will help us find systematic reviews. So we're going to take a look at the Cochrane Library, OTLecture, Pedro, and if I scroll down a little bit here, the National Guideline Clearinghouse. They've certainly listed some other tools here. You're welcome to go and look at those at any time. Some of them are going to be really good and are specific for finding certain things, but we'll just take a look at some of those as a basic introduction. So I'm going to go back to our set of slides, and hopefully I can go back to our set of slides. Great, here we are. And I'm going to proceed to the next slide, and it's just I find it might be a little bit easier to try and understand this is if we put this in the context of a scenario. And in this particular scenario, it has you being a part of an outpatient rehabilitation program, and you are working with clients who have low back pain, and you want to see what does the evidence say about occupational therapy and it's the interventions that they can provide to this client group who are experiencing this particular condition. So I always find it helpful to actually create a little bit of a search map. Now, this is about as basic a search map as we can get, but it should, when it comes to working with these specific tools, be really helpful. So a couple of things that will help in our search is try a couple of different things, but again, using some of the searching conventions, I want to use the wildcard to find variations of terms. So put the wildcard here on occupational therapy. So it's going to find occupational therapy or occupational therapist. And when it comes to low back pain, it's probably going to be really helpful is if we put that particular phrase in quotation marks. And in order to capture terms like low or lower, I've used the wildcard within that particular phrase. So we're going to employ some of those tactics when it comes to searching our databases. Great. So I'm going to flip back to our page here on evidence-based practice page, and we're going to start taking a look at some of those tools. So the first one that I'm going to look at is the Cochrane Library. So if we go into our systematic reviews box here on this page and click on Cochrane Library, it should load up the page for us, and it puts us into their general page where we can do some very basic searching, some browsing. But if you go up here to the right hand side, you can see the advanced search, and if you click on that, this takes you to our search page, and it's this one that some of you will be a little bit more familiar with if you actually looked at this database, or if this was one of the databases you chose for your first assignment. So when it comes to searching in the Cochrane Library, we can do it a couple of different ways. We can actually look for subject headings. It can be a much more precise way of finding things on our topic, we can do that. But I think for the purposes of this class, just want you to become a little bit more familiar with this tool. We'll just do some very basic searching. So it's already selecting where it's going to search. So it's going to search in the title, abstracts, and keywords. And I'm going to start with our first term, and that's going to be occupational therapists, all of those things. It'll be great. I can go ahead and search that, and hopefully we get something coming up fairly quickly. It looks a little bit slow. Great. So again, it's just the one concept, and we can add our second one in a little bit, but let's do a quick review of what we have found on this page. In here we have some results. We have quite a few results, but there's some important parts to these results. What you'll notice here is that we have 57 Cochrane reviews. These are Cochrane systematic reviews. They're a very high level review, and if we can find a Cochrane review, great. That's what we would love to find on our subject. But we're not just limited to Cochrane reviews. We have other reviews as well. These are different types of systematic reviews. You can find these through other database searches using PubMed or Ovid, Medline, or Embase, and so forth. It also has it lists all the different randomized controlled trials that are in this particular database, and you can also find method studies, technology assessments, different types of things related to occupational therapy, which can be very interesting, but not for our particular search at this moment. But you have a variety of different places to take a look. So if we were actually wanting to see all the randomized controlled trials in occupational therapy, we could select that button, and there we go. Everything is there for us to see when it comes to those systematic reviews. So I'm just going to go back to our Cochrane reviews here, and when this comes back up, great. So here's our first part of our search, and what we can do is we can go ahead and add that to our search manager. So it's going to put it into our search history there. It's ready to use, so that's great. I'll go back to my search, and I'm going to look for my next. Oh, I forgot to use the quotation marks. And we'll do that search. Great, and we have our next concept put in there. And again, I'm going to go ahead and add that to my search manager. And you have to do this particular step in order to combine your two concepts. Great. When now this is ready to go, I can go ahead and use this search box here and add my two set numbers together. I have to use the number sign in front of that. We'll click on go, and there we go. I finally get a set of results. I'm going to click on that number, and it should take me back to my search results. Great. So again, taking a look here, I've given some information about this. Concept of occupational therapy and low back pain gives me 6 Cochrane reviews. Now some of these titles here really might not be as helpful for us, but some of them could be until we take a closer look at them. But we have exercise therapy for treatment of non-specific low back pain. And in here, if we actually click on this title, it's going to open up the full Cochrane review for us. And in here we should be able to see exactly what they were looking for, which groups. Does it somewhere in here, the phrase occupational therapy would appear, and we can see all the different languages that the summary comes in. But the interesting thing here is we do get the full systematic review, Cochrane review. So it's a great resource for finding systematic reviews. One of the things, I can go ahead and go back to our sets of results. I'll close this up. I'm not just limited to my Cochrane reviews, I can see other reviews. So these are other systematic reviews. They're coming from different journals. So this might be a good place to go and find information regarding systematic reviews. And I can see over 116 different randomized controlled trials on this particular topic. So the Cochrane Library is a great place to find, an easy place to go find systematic reviews, and or at least even some randomized controlled trials. The important thing to do is to take a look at your results section. Do I have Cochrane reviews to look at? If not, maybe I have other reviews, or at least I have some trials to look at. Those are the most important when it comes to searching for that type of information. Okay, so I'm going to close this up. And the next thing that I wanted to take a look at was the National Guideline Clearinghouse. So if I go to the National Guideline Clearinghouse here in that box, and again, this is just a collection, it's a database of actual practice guidelines. And one of the things that I can do here is I can run my search, and you can see I was practicing some of this a little bit earlier. Let's put in that right wildcard. And also going to take a look at occupational therapy. Run that search and let's see if we get anything out of this. Great, so I got 13 results here where low back pain or lower back pain and the two words of occupation or the concept of occupational therapy would appear. It's very nice that you get everything highlighted nicely for you here. And what you have is just click on any one of the ones that look good to you, and it'll actually give you some of the practice guidelines. They all can look a little bit different, so it's worth taking some time to poke around and investigate some of them. But a very interesting set of information. Practice guidelines are actually really high level or high evidence based information. A lot of work has gone into determining whether the interventions that are recommended in the guideline are actually effective or not. So in this particular one here, it says things that we should do is definitely patient education, physical activity. They're showing shoe inserts or orthosis are not recommended for prevention of low back pain. Lumbar supports are not recommended, and it's based, it tells you here on the sidelines where they're getting that information. Things that they don't know if they work or not, spinal manipulative therapy or spinal mobilization. So it's a really interesting set of information, and it's presented in a way that's really accessible and quick to take a look at. So yeah, it's a quite a good source of information regarding our particular topic, and it's a nice, easy to use database regarding that. Okay, so the next one that we're going to take a look at is OTSeeker. So I'm just going to close up this and get back to our search page here, and I'm going to find OTSeeker and go ahead and open that up. Now, hopefully we can get this to work. This database is actually pretty good. Sometimes some of these smaller databases can be a little bit frustrating to work with, but overall I think they're getting better in terms of how they actually operate. A little bit of information about OTSeeker here is that it is a database that contains abstracts of systematic reviews and randomized controlled trials, and it's important to note that they are relevant to occupational therapy. They are not exclusive to occupational therapy. So you're going to see things from other disciplines in here as well. There's some great information down here at the bottom about how to use OTSeeker, some search help, some more information about evidence-based practice resources, so how to improve some of your understanding and how to go about searching for some evidence-based practice information. Information about how things are rated here in this particular database, so certainly worth your time and effort to take a look at some of that. So we're going to go to our advanced search and I'm going to try a couple of different searches. I've tried a couple down here, and you can see I've got a couple of 0 results, but I think what has happened is that when I tried to do this, this is where some of these databases can sometimes be a little bit funny because it's relying on some of the cached information. But anyways, what I had done was I typed in the lower back pain the way it is here, and then also occupational therapy here. Great. Go ahead and run that search, and I get my sets of results. So one of the things that you'll notice is that they're sorted by relevance. So depending on the terms that you've put in here, that's how you get your results. It tells you which journal that they've come from. This one's come from Spine, so Spine is obviously not exclusively an occupational therapy journal, but still here's a good randomized controlled trial on the treatment of chronic low back pain, and also again on the implementation of the Dutch low back pain guidelines, so another randomized controlled trial, so you get a good set of results. So again, it's a great resource for doing a quick search to find high evidence information on particular topics related to occupational therapy, relevant to occupational therapy. And the nice thing about this particular tool is that you don't have to actually include or build your own search filter. So OTSeeker is another great resource to go to. Okay, so the next tool that we'll take a look at is Pedro. It is a physical therapy database, evidence-based database, so it can also be very relevant to occupational therapy, and you can find it here in the meta search engines box that I have, and I'll just open up Pedro. And in here we have some, again, it's a very small database, it's very specific. It's a free database, so that's very helpful. So if you find yourself as an occupational therapist in a situation where you don't have access to a lot of databases, Pedro is certainly one to keep in mind. It's got a couple of different ways to go about searching the information within this database. You have your simple search, and it's the one that I prefer when it comes to searching, so you can just do your simple searches. It has an advanced search, and here, so this advanced search is a little bit different than the advanced searches that we usually come across. So you will look for words that are in abstract in the title, but then you are going to want to say, I need things related to skill training or strength training or fitness training or acupuncture and so forth, or if I want to focus in on a specific region. So again, it's relying on some of these drop-down menus. So I haven't used the advanced search for my searching that often. Maybe you would find cause to do that, but for myself, I find I've had pretty good results just using the basic search. So again, I'm going to just try my various searches using my very simple search strategies and see what I get. Hopefully I get something. There's 82 records, and what you're going to see is again probably a lot of the same articles. We're going to see a lot of these Cochrane reviews. As I was saying earlier, you can see how they rate practice guidelines are really useful tools or resources to use when it comes to finding that information. So again, it's just a basic search that we can do in here. It gives us a whole list of systematic reviews. But then as you go down and you actually get into the clinical trials, they do give a rating, and they have an explanation of how each particular clinical trial gets its rating, or on the criteria for making that rating. But it's a good way of finding higher level clinical trials. So going through here, you can certainly see as you scroll down through this, not every clinical trial isn't necessarily a good clinical trial. So Pedro is a really good tool to use for finding information, and I would highly recommend it, especially because it's a free one. Yeah, so you should be able to have good success with this particular tool. So from Pedro, we're going to take a look at two more databases, and that's going to be PubMed and CINAHL. So I'm going to close this up, and actually going to go back to a place where we can link up to PubMed and CINAHL. So I'm going to click on the home page here, and I'm going to open up PubMed. And PubMed, this is going to be really helpful to you as well. Again, especially if you find yourself in a situation where you don't have access to all the databases, since PubMed is freely available. And instead of doing the search that we have done in the past, we're going to try something a little bit different. And what I want you to go to take a look at is these PubMed tools, and in particularly the clinical queries. And again, what this does is when we select this particular feature in PubMed, it'll give us a search page. There we go. Great. So what we're doing here, it sort of looks like our regular search page, but it is actually pushing it through a filter, and it's pre-created some filters in here for us. So I'm know for that sometimes the putting wildcards within quotation marks doesn't necessarily work so well in PubMed in this particular database. So I'm going to change the search up a little bit, and I'm just going to put in low back pain and occupational therapy here. So again, keeping the search nice and basic and simple. And we can run our search, and before it actually completes the search, it's giving us some options here. We can actually change the type of information that we're looking at. So here we have some results, and we've kept this in. This is a therapy search, so it's actually looking for therapies related to occupational therapy and low back pain, and it's a broad search. I can focus the search to really go to a very narrow filter, so it's actually going to change some of my results here. So before I had 88 results up here, and now I'm down to 45, so it's tightened up terms that bringing back to us, or the results it's bringing back to us, so that can be a little bit more helpful, especially if we're getting pretty high numbers. I'm going to switch that back to broad. The other thing that we also get is systematic reviews, so it breaks it out, what are your systematic reviews and what are your clinical trials. But if you were interested in diagnosis and low back pain, we can put in that filter, so it's going to change these sets of results again. And some of these will be a little bit more about how occupational therapists might be able to diagnose low back pain. So it's nice to be able to change some of these types of filters that you're looking for. So, etiology, are you looking for harm articles or prognosis? So the PubMed clinical queries is a really nice tool to use for that type of searching. So PubMed, like I said, is pretty good for this. So I'm going to close this up, and we're going to take now a look at CINAHL and how it also has some of these same features. So if I open up CINAHL here, and it gets me there. So the one thing that I'm going to want to do is just go to my advanced search. And so this should all look very familiar to you. So one of the things that we can do here is this. I can again put in, and I think it works to put this particular phrase in quotation marks using the wildcard, and I can do the same for occupational therapy. And one of the things I'm just not going to go ahead and hit search right here. What I want to go down to is, as you can see, there are also some clinical queries down here. And there's other ways here to go about filtering your search. So this can be really helpful when looking for these very specific types of information. So if we scroll through here, you can see you have all sorts of different types of filters you can put in there, and it makes it really easy to use. So when they talk about high sensitivity, that means you're going to get a bigger recall. That's your broader search. And a high specificity means you're going to get a very focused search. So it's going to be looking for things that are very specific to low back pain and occupational therapy. So I'm going to select that one. And then from here, I'm going to go down to my search button at the bottom of the page, hit search, and I am going to get my sets of results. So it's certainly another way to do very quick and basic searching, or searches for very high level evidence on pretty specific topics. You can actually create fairly complex searches and still do your filtering at that point. You can go to your search history. If you did a fairly complex search, and if you had a whole set of results here and you wanted to edit that set of results to change it, you just click on that little edit button over there, and then you get this option to actually change the search to what you need. So I'm going to close up CINAHL here and go back to this last slide. So hopefully you found this information helpful when it comes to looking for systematic reviews. Again, I apologize that I couldn't be here today, but if you have any questions at any point, please feel free to come and see me regarding that, the information that you need, and hopefully I'll be able to help you out. Thank you very much.